Located in the southern Indian state of Telangana is its capital, Hyderabad. It's the fourth largest Indian city and home to nearly 7 million people. It has been a wealthy center of diamond mining and trading for centuries.
The Telugu language film industry, or Tollywood, based in Hyderabad, is the second largest producer of films in India. And its epicenter, Ramoji Film Studio, is the largest film studio complex in the world. Since the late 1990s, the Hyderabad Information Technology and Engineering Consultancy City, or High Tech City, has been a rising presence in the global tech scene.
We came to this bustling metropolis to talk to an old friend of mine about an even older problem: education. But first things first, street food. Every destination should start with street food, and Hyderabad is no exception. That's my old pal Harish. He's the one working on the education problem. We'll get to that. For now, he's showing us where to get the best masala dosa and a good kebab. They did not disappoint either. Hyderabad has an incredible blend of traditional Indian flavors steeped in the heavy Islamic and Persian influences of the old trading routes. You can't go wrong. And after stuffing ourselves, it's time for a drink and a personal history lesson.
All right, cheers, guys. Thank you, Harish, so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I remember when Earl first told me about you. How did you guys...
It's a big deal, man. I mean, Harish and I have known each other since grad school. We went to the University of South Carolina at the time, the best international school program, and then we wrecked it.
Yep.
Kind of converged around the .com thing. We also wrecked that, ruined the .com thing.
You seem to have that trend.
Right. All the stuff that you and I have done in the middle doesn't really explain where you came from and where you're at.
2012, I went to India to run a banking institution for one of my clients on the wealth management side. And that was a temporary assignment for 2 months, which went on for 11 months. And this institution was essentially lending money to affordable, low-cost private schools in India. But, we'd always heard about sort of the challenges in this education sector in India.
Right.
But I walked into a school after 32 years, and nothing had changed. Kids were copying from the board and copying it one more time at home. And this essentially was the education.
Rote memorization.
Yeah. Really bothered me a lot, and then from my own personal experiences, I thought we could make a difference. And it was really about strong sense that we could actually change something. And with that, we actually bought our first school in 2013, built a team around it. And
just to be clear, I mean, this is a private school that you guys bought.
Yeah.
So what's the issue? I mean, why do you need a private school?
There's about 250 million school-going students in India. It's a huge number. And government cannot accommodate all of it. So this whole private school industry has come out. There are estimated 350,000 private schools in India. About 100 million kids go to these schools.
It's funny because one of the top things that you always hear from anybody in most countries around the world is that no matter what, they just want their kids to be educated.
Yeah.
Isn't it true a lot of Indian families see their kids, want them to go one of two directions, engineering or medical? And if you're going to get there, then there's a logjam for the really good top schools in India. So the pressure cooker, we saw in Hyderabad, there were some kids that I think had just didn't get the scores that they needed to get into the top school, ended up, committing suicide.
Yeah, most parents see education as a way out of poverty, right? So can you imagine, they're putting their hard-earned money towards the education of these kids. We charge equivalent about $300 a year, right? But that's a lot of money for a lot of the parents.
Yeah.
So they, sacrificing to send their kids to school if they don't make it. They don't get to the right schools, or at least they think they haven't gotten to the right school. And I struggled through school. I failed, till 12th grade. And,
Guilty.
Guilty, yeah. So when parents ask me, how are you qualified to run a school? I'm like, well, most of these kids are struggling, right? And I was in the same boat. I can relate to what they're doing, why they're not struggling, what the challenges are. And we want to figure out what do we teach them that'll help them. Maybe it's not the schoolwork, the education. Can we teach them something else that'll sort of spark something? So we train our staff to say, let's keep them engaged, let's keep them in school. They'll find their way somewhere. Right? If it's not engineering, it could be a business, could be art, could be something. So we just want to make that environment where they don't feel defeated when they come to school. And we have that environment where they feel like, hey, I can do my best, and I'll learn, and we'll sort of figure out where they need to be in their own education.
And that's the thing about India for me. I mean, India is much more than just the engineers and the medical profession. The reason why we love India is the food, the drink, the culture, the music, the colors, the vibrancy.
And the storytelling. I mean,
and the storytelling.
Some of the great movies are from India.
Yeah, I mean, you've got all of these things, but yet everyone feels like, okay, we're going to either do this or that. And your story was not ending up in engineering or medicine.
And I can tell you, my father tried very hard. He's an engineer, and he would come and try to teach me math after school, and he really gave a true effort, but it just was not happening. It just was not an interest, was not going to do it. And then I found my own way. Like I said, I didn't do well till 12th grade, and then once I got to college, I was like, oh, accounting, out of all the subjects, right?
Yeah.
Found that interesting. And
no one finds accounting interesting.
Yeah.
From accounting major to education entrepreneur, Harish understands that not every kid's journey is the same. Today we're taking a tour of one of Harish's schools to see the difference that their brand of private education can make.
Did a couple of times, so.
Yeah, we just made contact.
On the way, we stopped to check out an archaeological treasure. But between traffic, cows, and a few close calls, it took us a minute to get there.
There's no way we're gonna die on this side.
Once we arrived, though,
Harish is now the founder and director of Seed Schools, a small collection of private schools that puts the physical, emotional, and social health of their students front and center so as to better prepare them for the changing workplace. He introduces us to one of his classes before showing us around.
Which room are we in?
He may have regretted that decision.
So I'll show you Mr. Bridges. Here I am. The glasses. That's me.
That's him
And the smile. And this is Mr. Martin. There's people that are doing good things everywhere. So education is important for everything. This is all a good journey that we're on. And so we thank you very much for letting us come in and get to meet you, get to see the school. Any questions?
No?
Does anyone want to practice their English? No?
What is your name? What is it? Varun? I'm Craig.
Now, will you tell us who's the worst kid? Who's the worst, the misbehaving kid? Oh!
My
Good.
No.
When I was a young kid, I was the worst kid. Everyone can change.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Dhanyavad. Dhanyavad. Thank you. Kapul Kap. Dhanyavad. Kapul Kap. Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.
rather than the repetitive, rote memorization techniques and emphasis on medical and engineering fields of traditional Indian public schools, the Seed School focuses on creativity, innovation, and critical thinking. Their approach emphasizes English language comprehension, technology literacy, hands-on learning, and extracurricular activities to prepare individual students for the 21st century workplace. It's an education system designed for all types of students, and it works, but not without a lot of commitment.
Why do you do this? Like, why in the world?
Temporary insanity is is difficult. It's not easy by any means, and especially commuting back from the US to India every other month, being away from home. But when I get to the school and I see the kids and what we're supporting, we have seen a dramatic change And we've actually introduced some new things. Normally you go to a class, kids are just sitting there, teachers writing on the board. They kind of,
Right.
the kids actually ask us for this digital classroom. Love going to these classes. I see these kids, they're engaged, their hands are up. You know, they're giving answers, wrong answers, they're helping each other. That's what excites us, right? But still, I feel the brick and mortar schools are very important.
Well, you're not giving up on the teachers at all. So it's ed tech plus teachers.
5 to 10% of the students within a school will be self-motivated. They'll get to the point of teaching themselves, right? Then we probably have another 20% that'll get there somehow. The remaining 75% or so are really struggling. We have to motivate them, we have to coach them, we have to guide them, we have to make it exciting for them. That's where our teachers come in, right?
Tell us, like, how you wound up in the U.S. and why your story is important to the work you do today.
Yeah, so my dad got a green card. In those days they were looking for engineers to come to the U.S. So he came the summer of 1980, and sort of got things settled in, and having to restart at that age, and with kids and responsibilities, he didn't feel comfortable. So for his own peace of mind, and my mother's like, I'm not going. So came back and told us that we're not going. We're like, no, you're not going, I'm going. I want to go. So my father called my uncle here and said, hey, Harish wants to come. And so my uncle agreed, and somehow things didn't work out. And the option was for me to go back. And I said, I'm not going back. It was because of the education system.
That's the one reason you didn't want to go back to India?
Reason. But it was very difficult, right? I'm on my own, I'm 14 years old. I left my uncle's place. I kind of worked in motels late at night, 12-hour shifts, went to school during the day.
High school?
During high school. And struggled, some nights slept in a car, some nights, just managed. In the summer times, I worked multiple jobs. And summer before my senior year, became friends with this family. Their son and I became good friends. And first week of my senior year, invited me to come live with them. And it was a game changer, right? I mean, to literally take me off the streets and trust me to live with them. It's a big step, right?
Huge step,
and never expected anything out of me. Just supported me, right?
You have an immigrant story.
Yeah.
You came to this country from elsewhere because you wanted to be here. As a 14-year-old.
I know. Like, I can't believe that.
You took ownership of your own life at a really early age. What does America mean to a kid that, at 14 years, what does it mean?
The beauty of the U.S., and at least in my mind, was when I came, you can work in a McDonald's, and I did that. Work in a restaurant. I could pay for my college. I could pay for my car, pay for a place to stay, and all of us did that. I'm not sure that's possible today. People are working 2-3 jobs, and if our community is not strong, we're not going to enjoy the benefits. And I'm seeing that similar scenario in the U.S. is what's in India. So there's a huge divide. It's a huge gap.
Yeah.
I mean, we
exactly.
we talk about this digital divide in other countries. 50% kids don't have access to internet in the U.S.
Oh, gosh.
Right? So the issues are there everywhere, and the magnitudes are different. I think the number of kids that don't have it in India, they don't have the support system. Those issues are here as well. People who don't have those same facilities and the same access to the conveniences, they'll start fighting back. And I think we're seeing some of that in the U.S., right?
Exactly.
So to me, it's very important for me to take care of my neighbors, and like this one, the Ray family that took care of me. I mean, they made my life, right? If you had looked at me when I was in India at 14 years old, and you would have said, can Harish make it on his own at 14? The answer would have been absolutely not. But once I came in that environment, I wanted to do it. This is what I wanted, right? I was willing to sacrifice. My parents sacrificed a lot, probably more than me. If I look at how much they sacrificed, Sorry,
No.
very important for me. We don't know what we can do until we sort of push in that environment and keep trying.
It's not easy. Sometimes it is extremely difficult, and you're going to be put in a situation that you don't even really know how you're helping or if you're helping.
When I started seed schools, so I'm just going to go do it. I'm going to figure it out.
Right.
Right? If I look at it too deeply, there'll be enough reasons for me not to do it.
Oh, sure.
Right? And we've had hiccups, we've had funding issues,
Right.
but we've sort of said the desire was there to do it.
You had something inside of you that was a drive, and you just said, and maybe it's dumb luck, and maybe it's just,
Hey, you don't have to make it sound so bad.
Like you say, some of it's just like it's a 14-year-old mentality of like the world's my oyster. I don't care who you think I am. This is who I'm gonna be, you know? And I always look at India and I say, how is it that one kid stands above any other kids in 250 million? So kids either go to one of the top schools or they feel like they've completely failed at such an early age on that. What does that look like for your schools? I mean, you're offering them opportunities to be successful and not follow maybe a traditional, Indian trajectory.
I'll give you an example. So we had this one student came and shook my hand and said, "Welcome back, sir. Good to see you." No one in the whole classroom had even had the courage to come talk to me, right? Because
you're an intimidating figure.
Yeah, whatever, right? But he had the courage to do it, right? So I told the principal, I said, "Hey, this kid came and talked to me." She said, "Oh, he's a lousy student, doesn't do his work." So that afternoon I went to his class and I kind of listened in and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna just raise a point." I said, the way the student came and spoke with me this morning was the way you should be addressing people, and you should go do that. All of a sudden, this kid in the classroom is like, his whole posture changed and demeanor changed. And so that afternoon, I'm waiting for the cab to come in, and there's a line of this entire class. And I'm on the phone. They're like, "Welcome back, sir. Good to see you." So I'm like, "Hey, I got to call you back," and put the phone down. And I addressed all of them. So think about it, right? Now this one kid, his confidence level changed because we want to find that something, some spark, whether it's that, ability to come and talk to you or go do arts or go do something in a product development. So those are the difference we're making, Earl. So, we're trying to do our part. But, again, phenomenal team, a lot of supporters along the way.
Harish's story was inspiring, but it's important to note that he always points back to his team and project partners. No one person or program can solve the problem of education for India, or for that matter, the world. Overcrowded, underfunded school systems are not a new or unique problem. But with the second largest population on the planet, India faces larger hurdles than most other countries. We experienced the sheer volume of people just before our flight back to the States when we went to see the iconic Charminar monument and mosque. The Charminar is one of the most recognizable structures in India, and at over 400 years old, it dates back to the founding of the city.
Like the 4 pillars of the Charminar anchor it structurally, education is only one essential component to creating a stable community, but it's critical to the future mitigation of India's growing income gap. Back in the States, we discussed the philosophy, efficacy, and future of SEED in the shadow of one of the most elite and expensive private schools in Virginia.
Well, the interesting thing about private schools everywhere is you try to get into the best school that you possibly can.
Right.
You sacrifice as a parent, go without, so that your kids can go to a school like this.
True.
Your network of friends and people that you're, with will stay with you forever, which I guess is part of the whole proposition for education anyway, right?
To your point, if you go to a certain school, it's a sort of recipe for success. Not necessarily true.
Right.
I mean, you have more opportunities. In my case, in my earlier days, there's no way I was going to make it to engineering, right?
Right.
And I didn't go to any prestigious schools. So I think that you have to create your own opportunity, regardless of where you start.
It's really hard work. It goes to the shoulders of the student, right?
Absolutely.
You can go to school like this and still be a failure in life.
Absolutely.
So what if you guys are successful, what does the world look like? What does it look like for India or these kids that go to your schools?
I think it's, finding your desire, right? So you asked what's success for us. Success for us to give these kids that opportunity to find what they want to do, right? Have the courage to do things. We can talk about all the ideas in the world, but if you don't take the next steps and actually go execute, start building it out, it's not going to happen.
How's that different than what you get at a public school?
I keep emphasizing on the philosophy and the culture of the school. To me, is the most important thing. Right. Everything else is the same, right? So if we can bring the right kind of mindset into the school, the children understand, hey, they have to work hard. They have to do things honestly. They have to do things ethically. They have to take ownership. Those are important components that we're trying to teach in our schools.
Yeah. So here's the hard question. I mean, if it is not so much different from one school to the other, why is what you guys doing important?
Yeah. A lot of schools have a shortage of funds.
Right.
The right kind of operators aren't there. Right? So if you start solving those problems, we
Right.
give them the right skill sets.
Yeah, and that's what you guys are doing, is you're basically solving those problems.
Absolutely. For example, in our school, we have a computer lab with 30 computers.
Right.
And now we're actually building curriculum for the computer classes that's relevant to this work. Not, RAM,
Right.
DOS, irrelevant.
The old- yeah.
Right? And that kind of investment's not being made in the sector.
I mean, it's interesting because you have to have the infrastructure, et cetera, but once you guys are successful and it's in place, these kids
Yeah.
will have a better opportunity for,
Yeah, so if we get the right leadership,
yeah.
who now work with the children with the right mindset, that's the opportunity. We give them the right kind of tools to go out there, give them all the probability for success. And hopefully a lot of them will capture it. So it's the team that we put together, the way we handle the academic support, the way we handle the teacher training, that's going to be the game changer for us.
I mean, you've got a model that you can replicate.
And the passion behind it to make it happen.